speak on the last talking point, which I'll speak on pretty in-depthly. It is Newcastle, and I want to speak about how Eddie Howe has transformed this Newcastle team. And I'm going to do this by using some average positions, which I'll bring up later on. Now, Eddie Howe has completely transformed this side, which under Steve Bruce was shot of any tactics, of any motivation, of anything, right? And you can scream, 90 million investment, right? But they brought in Dan Burn, who's good without being great. Matt Targett, I'm pretty sure, who is, again, good without being great. And Chris Wood, who couldn't hit a barn door to save his life. And Bruno Guimaraes, who I was screaming from the hilltops about Man United signing him. So don't say that Newcastle have thrown money at him when literally every other club could have gotten him and he would have played very well for them. Anyway, but to show this, I want to bring up some average positions. Now, if I just move slightly over to this side and bring this up. This, create the sofa scores as well for this, but this is Newcastle against Leeds under Steve Bruce. Now, you look at that and you think, well, that's defensive, right? But not only that, there is just no synergy in this system. Right? Wrong way. In this system, right? So you have that back five, which is lopsided, right? And then you have the midfield four, which is pretty much sitting as a back nine. And then you have Joel Linson on the left-hand side, who is trying to provide something, I assume, maybe a little bit of an outball, maybe playing as like a wide target man. And then you have Sir Maximin up top, who's void of any real service or any real... Just there's nothing there for him to show his talents. It's basically long border to Sir Maximin. Hopefully he can do something, right? And this is just a complete cowardice way of setting up. And if you compare this to this system, which is Eddie Howe's Newcastle under Leeds, it is a completely different way of playing. You have that back four, which has a lot more shape. I mean, not shape, but it has a more aggressive and advanced setup to it. You have the double pivot in midfield of Joel Linson and Shelvey. So to give context to this average positions, this system set up as a 4-3-3. Now, you have Joel Linson and Shelvey as those two pivots in midfield, or that double pivot, those two holding midfielders. And what that gives you is it gives you a real base to build off. If we just quickly flip over to this system, there's no base to build off here. There is no way of playing. You can't see a way of playing with this system, right? It's basically long border, Sir Maximin, and hope for the best. Whereas with this system, you can either play out wide to the fullbacks, you can play through the middle, you can go long because you have Chris Wood and you have the four players around him. He has support, right? So you have Shelvey and Jolinton in midfield, and you have Willock pushing on with Wood dropping deep. So that's your two attacking midfielders if it's a 4-2-2. And then you have Ryan Fraser and Sir Maximin up top, who have the pace, have the technical ability, have the dribbling ability to push on and really show how good they are, right? So that is just a clear, like, night and day example of how Newcastle have been changed and transformed in a trice, really, because it's been a couple of months and Eddie Howe has shown that they are a completely different side. They're currently sitting 9th in the league and look unbelievable. Like, they look seriously impressive. In their game against Norwich, they won 3-0, and I want to bring up those average positions right now as well, because this is the average positions for that game, and you can tell it is near on identical to the one against Leeds in terms of the structure. You have the four at the back, which is very spread out, very wide, creates space. You have the two in midfield. You have the two just in behind of the two up front. Now, the slight difference here, which is a positive because it shows that Eddie Howe is adaptable, is that there's no Chris Wood in this game. So they have Jacob Murphy and Joel Linson playing as the two strikers, with Sir Maximin and Willock playing as these attacking midfielders. And then in behind, and then dropping a little bit deeper, you have Guimaraes and Sean Longstaff. So this structural change that Newcastle have gone through, and this structural transformation that they've gone through, has shown a couple of things. It shows how completely inept Steve Bruce was, and it shows just how good Eddie Howe can be. And it shows just how good he can be with the right investment, with the right backing, with the fans behind him, with a playing squad that will invest in his tactics and his philosophies. He can be very, very, very good for Newcastle United, and there's just something about them which shows promise. Like, I know they're going to have a lot of investment in the summer. I know that they're going to be backed pretty heavily. But you can't take any credit away from Eddie Howe and what he's done in such a short time span, because investment or not, to completely transform a team who got who got 1 point from 14 games, and to transform them into being a side which is in the top 10, it shows just how good they are. Oh, just how good they can be, and just how good Eddie Howe can be. And the difference between an Eddie Howe Newcastle and a Steve Bruce Newcastle is that an Eddie Howe Newcastle is advanced, it's aggressive, it knows how to play football. Whereas a Steve Bruce Newcastle, it was cowardice, it was long ball, it was resigning to defeat before the game even started. And Newcastle fans deserved better than that, and they now have much, much better than Steve Bruce. And Eddie Howe can take Newcastle to wherever he wants to take them, because he showed very early on that he is very capable of being a very good manager with the right circumstances. So I have no doubt that they'll give him the investment that he needs. I have no doubt that he'll get everything that he wants, because that he's shown that he's capable. So the board would be ludicrous not to give him all the backing that he wants. With that saying, I do think at this stage he's the guy before the guy. I do think he's the Mark Hughes to the Roberto Mancini. I do think he's the Claudio Ranieri to the Jose Mourinho. I do think he's that guy to steady the ship, build foundations, get a good playing squad together, get the morale up, and then he's going to hand over to the more tactically experienced guy, to the better manager, and then he can take them on. But only time will tell, and credit to Newcastle and credit to Eddie Howe for transforming their fortunes. Now, let's move on to